Hey everybody, it's Peggy back again with another video. Today we are talking about a trade, I think it's called Tradewinds. I found the design, I got excited, and now I can't 100% remember what it's called. But anyway, I'm taking a break from my incessant journey of half square triangles. Look it up, they're foundational. Half square triangles are foundational. You find them in almost every quilt design. So that's a whole thing that I'm probably going to beat to death again and again and again in future videos. But today I found a really cool, not today, like last week actually, I found a really cool design, and they call it Tradewinds, and it's really cool. And what's really cool about it is having everything match up at the corners doesn't matter. So yeah, it's just come along. I'm gonna be over there. I haven't done them yet, so I hope I'm not gonna screw it up. Now we have a small secret that we need to keep, because my lovely wife has been asking me to do, we picked up the fabric to do a Alice in Wonderland quilt for her. And so she's like, hey, you just finished the last quilt. Can you do mine next? And I'm like, sure, we can do yours next. But first, I don't know that I'm going to actually do a Tradewinds quilt first, but I want to practice with the technique. I want to practice with the technique, so that's what I'm working on today. I've been watching a bunch of videos to see if I got it right, and now I get to put it into practice. So let's go over there, but don't tell the wife that I am doing this today instead of starting on her quilt. She's got a really cool quilt that I'm going to be working on. I'm probably going to film most of how that goes too, but today I just wanted to play and to mess around and to do the things. Okay, I am back. Now I've got my iron up in the corner there. I'm right here. I didn't go too crazy. I didn't go too crazy matching stuff up. So I've got a purple tones and a couple of greens here. They're all a little different, okay? Then I've got two lighter ones. Now, obviously, each one of these needs to pair with one of these. I'll need two each of these. One each of these to get the 4. If I do this right, I want to get it twice. Now, this is going to be fun. Okay, these go in sets for starters. So let me just get everything opened up. I'm going to do these 10-inch. I've found personally that if I start off with something that's slightly bigger is quite often easier to work with. So that's its own thing. I need 2 each of these, and I might as well finish it into a tote bag. So I'm going to go 4 each of these. I'm just doing 10-inch squares for right now. The amount of fabric that you do or don't cut at each step is determined by your comfort level. One of these is the width of the fabric and it's folded in half. So if you are going to the fabric store to buy this stuff, then you're going to want a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 yard is 9 inches. So if you want a 10-inch, if you want these, that's the 4-inch line, that's the 14-inch line, that's 10 inches. I'm going to go a little bit over because I just do that when and where possible. I like to go a little bit over and then trim back. We've got the selvage, which we're not going to be using, so I will tell you right now, how you line up your fabric doesn't really matter. I'm lining this up here so I can cut off the selvage. And that's my 2-inch line. There's my 12-inch line. And now I've got a 10. Now, and I'm going to go a little bit over because I can. I'll trim these down before I get started, but actually I'm only going to go a 1/4 inch over. Okay, there's 4. So there's 2 of each. There's 4. We'll set that over there. I should have, where's my fold line? There's my fold lines. Perfect. Okay. I'm just lining this up as best I can. I already know that this fabric is really 2-inch line, 12-inch line, 10 inches. Okay. I already know that this fabric, I'm not really pulling from my stash, but this is stuff that's been sitting for a bit. So it's got some pretty ingrained wrinkles because basically once you iron it, Once you iron it, it's going to stretch out and be a little tiny bit bigger anyway. See that wrinkle? Once I iron that wrinkle out. Now, a lot of people, myself included, it depends on what I'm doing, will cut a bigger piece, then iron it, then trim it to size. I'm just making life easier for myself because I'm going to be moving everything over to my table. I don't do it that way every time. Take the time to put your fabric, to fold your fabric up when you're done cutting it, because trust me, I have had more than one day where I've had to come in here and I have had to spend hours folding and organizing cloth because I didn't do it when I should have. Okay. I pulled some scrap that I decided not to use, but I'm going to use this stuff. Okay. Now, for me, I get lucky. For me, I get really lucky because I already know if I cut, I'm doing 2 10-inch pieces. Oh, this isn't a very big piece to begin with. Okay, this is just a little guy. So I'm going to go, it's already bigger than I need, but take off that selvage. 4.5, 14.5, go to 15. I'm just talking to myself at this point. Okay, that's a minimum of 10 by 10. I only need 2 of these. Still haven't ironed them yet. I'll finish, like I said, I'm going to say it over and over again. I'll finish squaring it up after. Now this piece, I happen to know, is big enough for a project. So that goes over into the save it for later pile. This one here, what do we got going on here? Okay. This one here has already been used for another project. That's why it's not as long as it should be, which is fine. Is it 20 inches? Of course not. So one thing that I like to be very careful of when I'm cutting my fabric, this is a good tip for you guys. It is really tempting to go, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut 10 inches and then cut 10 inches. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you already know up front what kind of projects that you plan on using the leftovers for, which I sew for a living, so I already know, I'm going to go all the way across because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straighten that out as best I can. See, now I've got a longish strip, right? Straighten that out a little bit. Get over into the edge here, cut the excess off. Cutting the excess off is something you'll find yourself doing a lot of, so don't panic. If it is super concerning to you, because for some people it is, if it's super concerning to you, then at this stage, stop to iron it and then finish cutting it. You'll have a little bit less waste. That's the 5, go to the 15 and go ever so slightly over. I don't mind going ever so slightly over because there's a because. Make sure that you're meeting the minimum of what you need your thing to be, because you will be trimming these down. You will be trimming these down. So I'm starting with 10-inch pieces, and I believe if the instructions I saw were correct, I'm going to end up with like a 9 to 9.5 inch block. See, so I left the folded end, cut my 10-inch pieces off of this end, and now this folds out into a piece that I can use for a pocket pouch or a mini bag. So for me, for what I do, I already know that I have enough left over for another project, and the bigger piece that I cut in a straight line, so now it's not all chunked up. If you're sewing for a living or sewing in volume, if you're sewing in large volumes, then having your pieces already pre-cut nice and straight, even if it seems a little wasteful initially, can go a long way. Because now, because of the way I cut, I can glance at a fabric and go, oh, this is at least this long. So it's a lot easier to, at a glance, figure out what you've got. So it's like, oh, I need a piece that I can do blah with. I cut 2 of these. That's okay. That's okay. I have a particular bag design, so this is what I'm going to do. I accidentally cut 2 of these, which I'm allowed to do. This one here. So I've got 1. This is not a screw up on my part. This is not a screw up on my part because of what I do. I already know it's wide enough because it's wider than I need. So now I'm just going to cut this, and now I have fabric for 2 of my standard bags. because my standard bag isn't quite this wide. So it's like, oh, I cut that wrong, but I can make a standard bag, which is why those straight cuts can really, really actually be helpful. Okay. I didn't even do that on purpose. I wish I had. It would have been a really slick, smart thing to do, but no, I just didn't pay it. I usually cut them when I'm cutting fabric. When I'm cutting fabric, I will stack the fabric and cut for 3 or 4 things at the same time. So it's a bad habit. It's a good habit, but it's a good habit to have when I'm sewing for my shop, but it's a bad habit to have when I'm trying to sew for other things. Okay, so again, no, one of these makes 2 blocks. That's okay. I plan on making a quilt. I plan on making a quilt out of it. If I have extra, I can just save it for later. And I'm probably going to be theming my colors, because everything I saw with this quilt makes it pretty obvious. See, my ruler shifted, but because I was measuring over, it's not such a big deal. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal, but I don't care. I'll cut another one then. Oh, that's why it shifted. I think the bottom one didn't. Anyway, I'm gonna do this one again. Yeah, that's fine. Getting distracted is a great way for your ruler to, for some reason, the minute you're distracted, that's when your ruler decides that it's just, made of slippery. Okay, where are we at? I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm almost there. That one. I need that one. I need that one. This is actually a really nice one. I haven't done a lot of sewing with this particular fabric yet. I gotta get to it. I'm having a day and I want to make sure that I keep all my stuff together. I always try to keep track of, if I know I'm distracted, there's certain projects I just won't work on because it's like, oh no, I have to concentrate and I'm going to ruin that. Okay. That's pretty much following the right line. And again, do. So one of these is going to make 2. This is actually enough for 4. That's enough for 2. Oh no, I got double. I just ended up making double what I needed. That's okay. I'm literally just messing around learning a new technique today. So if I have extra fabric, it's extra practice for later. Because let's get that off. This, by the way, I'll show you this in a minute. Because this is really awesome. This handle, if you are already messing around with the bigger rulers, like I do on a day-to-day basis, this is stuck because it's been on there for so long. Come on, you can come off. You can do it. Show all the nice people. Show them. Show them. Get up there. Get. Up you get. This has been on there for so long, it doesn't want to come off anymore. This is a cheap Amazon find. You can get them anywhere. This is a cheap find, and it is a stick-on shower handle. The kind that you're supposed to stick on in your bathroom to help you get in and out of the tub or stuff like that. It's a stick-on handle. They work great on these rulers because you put them on, you snap them in place. After a while, when they've been in place for a while, they really don't want to come off, because when you're using your ruler, you want to make sure that the ruler is not moving. The ruler is what helps you hold the fabric down, so you really want to make sure this isn't shifting. And if you're a little careless or whatever, without this, I have to like put my entire hand spread out, lean in. You still have to do all that stuff, but you have a lot more control over your ruler because it now has a handle. These are awesome. That is a cheap find. That is a really, really convenient find. And like I said, you're not having to like, because you're spreading your whole hand over your ruler. You're like, oh my God, I got to make sure this doesn't move. I'll remember to move my thumb, right? Or yeah. I'm just going to stop and start that sentence. But it's also a lot safer. Your hand is up away from the ruler, so your ability to slice into yourself is greatly reduced. I love this for the bigger rulers. No, I don't. I was using it for these rulers. I was using one of those on these rulers, but these are just too big and they get unwieldy. And for these ones, I'll come down and put my whole forearm over, and there's no way that my hand's coming off the edge. So that one's fine. But this gives you a lot of control. This is all about the control. These handles are all about maintaining control. The improved safety is a side benefit, but the staying in control, because fabric's expensive. Fabric is really expensive, and when something shifts, when something shifts and you ruin a piece of fabric, especially if it's the last one you've got, you just want to cry. So I'm over here. We'll put that there. No, I'll put that there. Okay. Come on over here, kids. Now, I don't know what I've done. My camera feels like it's like really, really... There we go. This is just the really obvious ironing stage. That little beeping you were just hearing was my iron. My iron has a safety cutoff. So and thusly. Iron it. Don't beep at me. If you are concerned about shrinkage, then you would have already had this washed by now. If you end up sewing in a crease, sometimes you get a piece of fabric that's really heavily creased. If you end up, yeah, this didn't do it now that I want it to, but if you have a fabric that is really super heavy creased, you iron it and it's still got a bit of a crease showing, try not to worry about it. I recommend that you wash your quilts before you use them for the first time. Just gets all the leftover sewing dust and stuff out of them anyway, and any washing will eliminate those crease lines. The fabric is still nice and flat when you, it's not that the fabric isn't flat enough if you can see the crease line. It's just that the crease is set, so it's nice and, the crease is kind of set, it's nice and visible, but it does come right out with a wash. So. We has to iron all of this. Do you guys know there's actually a proper way to iron? What you are technically supposed to do when you iron. Oh, this isn't too bad. The ironing board's moving, but since the camera is right on the ironing board, what you are supposed to do when you iron is you're supposed to start in the center and work your way to the outside from the center. Obviously, it's not going to matter on a little piece like this, but if you're ever working on a bigger piece, and if you're working on a bigger piece of fabric and you find that by the time you've gotten to the edge there's a weird ripple, that will do it. I generally start from one end and go to the other. Don't start from the outside and iron towards the middle. You'll push any creases or bubbling. See how that's like a bit of a bubble to it right now just because it hasn't been ironed yet? If I start here and push in, I'll push all that loose stuff into the middle and then I'll have a problem later. Not that it matters, because it's really, really easy just to put it all back. If you find that you've done that, just pick it up, give it a shake, throw it back on the table. Start from the middle working outwards or from one end to the other. I usually start one end to the other. Okay. Almost done. We're going to turn this off while I finish. I'm just doing the light fabrics now. We're going to work with this guy today. We're going to work with this ruler today. Okay. So, this is... Now, this has a system with it. I'm not going to agonize about this. You know what? I'm not going to agonize about whether or not these are perfectly the right size too much. I'm going to focus on the technique today. I have to trim that one because it's way too big. But I'm going to leave the rest. I do not care. I'm practicing. So now don't forget, if you have scrap or fabric that you can afford to waste, so I know I went a little bit over, that's fine. There's one of mine. Okay. Put that over there for next projects. Okay. Everything is about the right size now. So what we're going to do, this is going to result in doing two at a time. So I'm going to do one of these, set the other one aside, I'm going to be super, super slow because that makes it super fun for everybody. Oh. Nah, I don't care. I don't care. Oh, yes, I do. I do care. Okay. Show you guys what to do with the bigger ones. Now, cutting through. So I am going to line all of these up so that everything's meeting here and here. Okay? Because I do have to trim that. I do have to trim that because I just realized the thing that I looked up, if this is off, it's not going to look, it's not going to line, well, there's not really a proper way to line it up, but you do have to line it up. Does that make sense? That one's a little long too. Okay, and then that one goes over there. Okay. Now, I have 4 of these, so I'm going to need 4 of these. So I'm going to go 1. I already know that I can cut through 8 because I have a big cutter that I'm going to grab in a second. 2. These have to pair up light, dark, light, dark. Okay, so that is going to matter. Line up to there. I've only got a little bit off the edge and top to come up. 1, 2, 1. Double check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. 2. That goes over there. And I've got 8 pieces of fabric. I'm going to get them all over here. I'm not worried about cutting them. I'm actually not worried about cutting them perfectly. These are just really big compared to the rest of it. Come on. I should have put one of those things on this one. So I am going to go, this is still a little over, and I don't care. This is where you get out your big cutters. This is where you get out the big cutters. The big cutters will go through thicker layers of fabric. Now, I'm ready. So what you can do, I saw 2 things happening here. You can go 2 at a time. I'm going to go 2 at a time because I got to be able to cut through this with scissors. I got to be able to cut through this with scissors. I know I'm making this sound oh so mysterious. 3, 4. Okay, so 2 of these 2 can be on this one. These 2 can pair with this one. And if I really want to get patterned and if I want to get serious about making patterns, then I can keep an eye on what I've done here. And maybe on the next one, I want to make sure that this one patterns with this one when I'm doing that one over there. How you organize your fabrics is fine. So I've got, oh no, these are the same. Oh no, these are not the same. Okay, now I'm going to go take, oh, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Oh my, I'm just going to make a big fucking mess now. Okay, so what you've done, you've got 4. You've got 4 of these, okay? So I get to practice this 4 times. Now what I've also done is I've put black thread in. I put black thread in my machine because I have never done this before. I've never done this before. I want to show you guys. I want to be able to show you guys on the interwebs, and I've never done this before. So I put in black thread so that we can really see what's going to happen here. So what's going to happen here is you're going to line this up that way. Stand up, sit down, whatever gives you the best angle. Make them do it. Use a pen. Do whatever you're going to do. But what you want to do is you want to start just off from the corner. That's the corner. You want to start over here somewhere, and you want to cut and have it end just off from that corner. So I'm going to do a relative. I'm not going to go super huge, but I'm going to do a little. It just needs to be like a little S wave. So, wish me luck. Okay, a little S wave. Now, this one, you're also going to freehand. So you keep these separate. This pile is now its own thing. These stay over here. Don't mix them up with this one. So do these one at a time if you have to. If I wanted to, I could cut that one and set it in this pile. That one, I could break this up into 2 more piles, set it here and here. I can do this. If I've got a good enough pair of scissors, I can go through all 8 over here if that's what I want to do, but I just kind of realized that that's taking on too much for something I'm still trying to learn. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these. I want light and dark, right? So I'm going to take that one and pair it with this one. I think this isn't gonna. I think this maybe should have been a little closer to the. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. So that one's going to pair with that one. This one's going to pair with. So these two are going to pair together. You can cross them over. You can do whatever to remind yourself where they're going to be. Don't forget, okay, this is the exact same fabric. So it doesn't matter, okay? It does not matter which one these pair with. I thought I had grabbed one then the other. Yeah, I was going to do. That was me not paying attention. I was going to do one of this and then one of these, but I ended up with all four the same. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The tutorial that I saw said don't bother pinning. So we're not going to bother pinning. We're going to give you guys vertigo and all kinds of stuff. So basically, what you're going to do, normally you would flip these together and just sew a straight line. I'm not sewing a straight line, so what's going on? This is pairing this way. So I got to go like that. Double check. Don't be afraid to double check where things are going. This is why. So just fiddle. Look, this is going to curve. This is going to be extra fabric that's going to be sticking in your way. Just fiddle until you get more or less a straight line. Get up here. You want these to be 1/4 inch, so take your time. Okay, so what your goal is here is that this needs to be consistent. So what you're going to do is you're going to come forward. Let's get the camera in nice and close. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, kids, this is about as close as I'm going to get it. I will try to keep my hand out of the way, which means I'm going to go really slow. So this is lined up. I'm lining it up with my, now this is veering away from my tape because this is curved. As I get closer, try not to pull. That's going to be your challenge. Try not to pull. And then just, now if you are extra careful, if you want to be extra finicky, I'm going to be extra finicky because I've never done this before. Okay, so now it's starting to curve in and it's starting to curve away, so I'm going to bring that over there. Don't worry about what it's doing back here. Don't worry, as long as it's not bunching up, in a way that it's going to get caught in the needle. Get my hands all in the way for you there. As long as it's not bunching up in a way that's going to put these folds into the needle, then don't worry about what it's doing back here away from your hand. This, by the way, is something that you need to learn how to do for making clothes. So this is starting to bunch right there. It's starting to bunch a bit right exactly in that spot. So I'm just going to bring that forward. Now I will say I watched this one video the one time, not freaked me out in a good way. It's like, oh my God, the skill. Watching women in a professional, like in a factory that does sewing. And they would just take two pieces like this and just go and have a perfect seam every time because when you're working in an industrial setting where it's all like, assembly line, when you're working assembly line style, each person only has one small part of the job, so it gets really easy to get really good at stuff like this. I don't normally have to sew like this. I'm already drifting away from that tape too because I'm just doing the thing. Okay, trick is not to pull. That's going to be fun. It is not likely to be perfect the way that these match up, as long as you're not stretching your fabric. As long as you are not stretching your fabric and everything lays more or less flat. Let's see, that's gonna have a little bit of a thing. Oh, and I know I didn't line the first place up properly. I realized that after I'd gotten started. Okay, where are we at? Where are we at? Vertigo time. You got sound effects that time, guys. You got a shoop. Okay, and what do I think of this one? Try and keep everything all on one side. I did stretch the fabric. I know I did. Like, yeah, okay. So, keeping in mind that every last bit of this is getting quilted down, I'm going to go iron this and come back. It's not very straight right now. It's my very first one ever, though, so I'm pretty happy. Let's go iron it and see what we think. Be right back. Okay, kids, this one's done. It's got a pleat. I definitely started it badly. This does not meet properly. I think I started at this end. I started at that end, but that sticks up, and that's not far enough. It's okay. Don't forget, this is really important. Do not forget that the purpose of quilting is you're going to come back and you're going to quilt all this down. So all of this sitting on top of a layer of batting is not, there's a pleat right here. So that's something I don't want. I could probably iron it out. Yeah, I can iron most of that out. But I'm going to go, how big is my block? I'm going to lose a lot on this block. I'm going to lose a lot on this block just because this one's a mess. And I'm not surprised. I really am not. Don't be surprised. This looks like it's going to finish around 8.5 inches. I think I need to change my blade. Okay, so I'm still going to use this one. Let's see, 8 and 8. That's, I can get way bigger than 8 by 8. 8 3/4 by 8 and, well, that's 9. Can I get into 9? Nope. 8 3/4 by 8 3/4. Still going to use it for something. Okay. This I already knew was going to happen. Okay, now that I knew it was going to happen, I knew that my first one was not going to be awesome sauce because I've never done it before. So I've got that. I've got a pleat, but if I just ignore it, if I ignore it and leave the pleat in, once this is quilted down, it's not going to matter. So I like the effect. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to end up with a bunch of these, and then you're going to systematically lay them out, right? So first try is not the charm. Not a surprise. I don't do clothing. I've only ever done clothing like a couple of times, and I did very badly at it, so I am not even going to pretend to be surprised. So let's do the next one. Bring everything lined up. Flip one over on top of the other. You know, okay, so that's got to be nice and straight to that. And don't forget, if you need to do half-inch seams to be comfortable, do half-inch seams. Do whatever seam width makes you the most comfortable. Just be consistent. And if you're working with any sort of a pattern, like most patterns will say do a 1/4 inch seam. Most quilting type patterns. They'll say do a 1/4 inch seam. So when you're doing your seams, what you have to go is you got to go, nope. I do a half-inch seam. So I'm going to add a 1/4 inch on every side that I have to sew and then adjust your measurements that way. Okay, what am I doing here? Peggy learns a thing, yay. Okay, go all the way into there because that's how far we go before things start curving. This is, okay, I stretched the fabric. I was definitely tugging and moving it. You have to shift the fabric without pulling it. That means like shift the fabric without, yeah, because fabric is stretchy. Don't agonize if it's not 100% straight. Well, do agonize a little bit, but it's all about practice at this point. I'm going to go a little bit more forward. That's what I'm doing. You know what? I'm going a little bit more forward, and then I'm making abrupt turns, and I'm not flowing with the turns. Just keep it going as you go. So basically, as you go, just make sure that this on the top is matching that on the bottom. Take your time, don't agonize, don't stretch your fabric, and don't be surprised if you don't get it right the first few times, because I certainly didn't, and I'm not concerned. Oh, obviously, I have this is another reason 405 why you want to save your scrap is because when you're looking at a technique that is going to have a learning curve. Okay, this one is still off. Let's see how badly off this one is. I think I tugged the fabric. Let's see. I'm just going to finger press this time because I think now that I've done the one, oh, this one's a lot nicer. So you want your, now you may, if you've cut really sharp turns into your fabric, then one thing that'll help your fabric lay flat is to come along, I'm off to the side here, come along and just snip, but do not snip all the way into that line that you've just sewn. Stay. And for some people, they want a lot of little snips. For some people, they want a few. I'm trying that this time. I just realized okay, so that one goes in for, yeah, I can do it up here too. Some people like to cut an actual notch out. If you're familiar with clothes, so if you're somebody who sews clothing, this will be easy for you. Okay. If you're somebody who already sews clothing, then sewing like this is not going to be a problem at all. It's really not. Yeah, this one's a lot smoother. Little puckers, but that's what ironing's for. This one here, let me see if I can get you guys right in. This one here, this is what you do. This is where things go. Now this one here, when it folds down, ideally what you want to do is you want to have it nice and flat out, and then you can actually, if you look really, really close, you can actually see the little crease where the two fabrics meet, right? But this one here, it's okay if it puckers out and over a little bit. Oh, I want that to all go the same way. You want underneath here, you ideally want this to all go the same way, because then it will just have a nice consistent feel, blah, 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 blah. But like here, this one here, so these are a little puffy. These are not going to be as flat. This one here, kind of, there it is. This one here kind of has a bit, it kind of folds over a little bit, right? But the reality is that when I swing back later and I'm quilting all of this, I can stitch along the ditch and tack and hold all of that down. So I've gone from visible crease right there. See it? I ironed it in and everything. I've got that to a little bit of puffiness. Okay, let's get back out. I zoom in so that you guys can see something, then I immediately start going like this so you can't see a damn thing. Okay, so now this one, I am going to walk it over to the iron. You guys hang on there. So this one's first attempt. This one's second attempt. Second attempt isn't that bad. I'm glad I cut extra because I don't mind doing it just for the sake of practice. So this part's nice. This part's got a bit of a pull. This is a bit bowed. You should be able to see that right there. This is a bit bowed. Second one, not a surprise. This is where I was kind of hoping. This is where I was kind of hoping I would get lucky and get for my first one. So, because you always hope that you're going to get lucky. So what I did when I went to the iron, remember I said that this had the ever so slight look. This now has a bit of a lip that folded over. And that caused it to get flat because what I did was I'm going to bring you guys over to the machine for the next one. What I did when I went to the machine, because I was just saying, oh, when you're sewing, you do this and you do this. What I did this time was I've already finger pressed it. I did this. I took the iron and just went straight up, straight down, got that line set, and then smoothed everything out. So how you iron this may actually matter. Okay, how I iron it may actually matter. Okay. Let's see what we ended up with this time. I think 9 by 9. So obviously you're going to lose half an inch because of your seam. And because this is wiggling and wobbling all over the place, you're going to lose a little more. That's a given. There's not really any way around that. Okay, actually there is. You know what? If you have experience, if you're somebody, I have developed this weird stutter lately. Well, I'll start a sentence and then I'll get in a feedback loop. And then just not continue. Anyway, you know, because I would never do that to you guys. Okay, so this one is going to be a 9x9. This is what I like to do. This is why I like to learn things with the camera on, because I like people to see the warts and all process. Because I have every respect for those people who go online and say, oh, here's a quilt you can do. Boom. I have every respect for that, but it can be quite intimidating. So this is, see how it's already a path and it's all randomized? Or you can do it as a, you can do it like that. And it stays, has a random feel to it. I'm going to do the next ones. I'll leave the camera on while I do the next ones, but I'm not sure where I'm not sure where my editing is going to land. So I'll leave the camera on while so yeah. See, I did it again. I'll leave the camera on while I do the next ones, because I want several to show you guys so you can have an idea. I'm probably going to do another one and replace this one. Don't forget, the idea is that once you make these, you mix them with other ones that have slightly different things to them. So I'm going to be over here for a while messing around with this stuff, and we'll see what's what. Yeah, because now I've got this one, but it's going to go the opposite. No, it's going to be the exact same. What did I do? I don't know what I did. I thought that I had separated my fabric better than I had, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get over here. I'm going to get to work and get a bunch of these done, because I need the practice, and then we'll take some of the nicer ones and we'll do some fun things, and we'll see, and I'll be able to show you some stuff. So I'll be back in a bit, and as long as I don't have any problems with the camera, you guys are going to get a lovely little fast forward now. Okay, I'm back. I am back. So, what I've learned so far is that they're not going to line up perfectly. No matter how you do it, they're just not going to line up perfectly. That's fine, because you want them to be, you want them to have some sense of randomization. So that kind of like builds that in. I'm going to get over to the ironing board and iron all these in a minute. I just wanted to like check in where I'm at right now. Okay, so why are we back at the ironing board? I'm going to tell you. So far, I'm pretty happy with all of this. So here's what we've got going on. Ironing is going to matter. So when you're doing this, I haven't trimmed these yet. Now, don't forget several things. When I started doing this, I was not going for exact 10-inch squares. So because these were not exactly matching in size, that's just the way it's going to be. Now, what I've also got is, like, see here, I've got a fold ironed in that way, because if you try to force out the fold, you end up with a pleat, and I don't want pleats. So now there's two ways to end up with a pleat. You can accidentally iron one in because you're trying to force out a fold, or like I did on the first one that I messed up. I don't think it's too big of a mess. Oh, it's already in this pile somewhere. Let's see if I can find it in the pile. It's not that big of a deal. The first one here, that one I messed up, that's not it. See, this one turned out really well. This one turned out really well. And I've already trimmed it to shape. So these are not going to be perfect. That's number one, which is fine. You're not going to be able to tell. Once this is done into a quilt, you're going to go, oh, this is awesome. So once I'm done babbling over here at the iron, I am going to take the time to trim all of these square and figure out what size. When you're doing stuff like this, when you're doing rando stuff like this, you got to figure out what is your smallest one and then trim everything else down to match it. And then you've got a full set, right? So the reason why I'm over at the ironing board is number one, you want all of your seams to go the same way. So you're going to start here and you're going to push just with the tip, and you don't care how it folds. You don't care how it folds or doesn't fold right now, but you want that all pushed the same way. You can come back with scissors and this, when you take the scissors to this, there's my scissors. When you take the scissors to this, it kind of, this being curved like this wants to pull. When you take the scissors and you just come in and you go snip, you don't have to snip super deep. Well, okay, it depends on how curved it is, right? You don't have to snip it super deep, but when you do, it just relieves that pulling pressure. It lets that, just let me get it ironed and I'll show you. It relieves the pressure. Of course, it's not going to do it. This is a small enough piece that it's not going to do it, but quite often these would spread out a little bit. It'll let that tension spread so that the fabric can lay flatter. Okay, now I've got my fabric on the top, and you can tell that I've done some pulling because this isn't straight. That's practice. That's just practice. So if you're doing this for the first time and you haven't done one before, I would definitely say if you're looking for a 10-inch square, don't start with a 10-inch piece of fabric. It's not going to work out for you. I'm probably going to end up with 8-inch squares. So anyway, what I'm doing, I've already kind of gone over this one once, but what I'm kind of doing is up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm getting that line in first, because don't forget, it's a quilt. Here's another one. See, it's got that lip. But I'm going to come back, when I quilt this up, I'm just going to come back and I'm going to go over all of these and I'll be sewing them all down. And now I just recognize, because of the more I practice, the less of that I'm going to have. The more I practice makes perfect, right? But I've still got a workable product. I've still got a workable I've still got something I can use right from the very beginning. I'm going to have to be more careful with my ironing, which is not a surprise because this is a brand new thing for me. So you do not have to start on any one side. But see, look at this. I've got some really, in here it's really tight. But what I did was I smoothed it out. I always try to make sure that the fold, either I try to iron it open, or I try to make sure that everything is going towards the dark end. I had a bit of a problem here. That's another thing I'll address when I'm back over at the machine. But it's really easy when you're following your curves to just sew off. That's what I did here. I sewed off. I started sewing and then I curved and went right off the edge. So I just backed up and started over again. So I think I might find this easier to do from the back. Yeah, I think this is going to be easier to do from the back, guys. So once you make sure that this is nice and smooth, let the fabric let it go where it's going to go. And like I said, also give me lots of forgiveness here, because we already know okay, two things. I'll probably go over that. I noticed that when I was going into, I noticed that anywhere that I cut a really sharp point at the end had a lot more problems with not wanting to line up properly. But if I can tug this over a little bit. I can move this over a little bit. I can move that over a little bit, but I do think that you want to go for blunt. I think you want to go for blunt at your corners, because right here where it was really pointed, I didn't have enough fabric to make it line up. But anyway, this will get better. This will get better with practice. Because look, this has also got the same thing going on. It will get better with practice. Let's see what happens if I force it in. Ironing is going to be much more important of a job. Yeah, it'll go. It'll push in, but it'll push in and stretch itself out. Get lots of steam in there. Seal it back down. Anyway, yes, this one was nice. Look, this one had much more blunt corners. This one, the corners were much more blunt. I didn't approach this at an angle to create a sharp point, and it's a lot smoother. So let's get that. Yeah, in theory, what you want to do is no steam. Push everything where you want it. No steam. Come back to your front. Iron it. I'm not even quite on the camera. I'm trying to get lined up for the camera, guys, but that's still something I'm working on. Yeah, see, this one's a lot nicer. Those other ones, so that one's a lot nicer. This one isn't as nice, but this one also came in, the fabric came into a point at the one spot. But it's not, if it's too small, this one's a little, I might end up doing 2 sets. I might make this smaller for something else, because these are much, they all started off with the same size. They all started off with the same size fabric. But this one here, I had problems getting this to sew to the end because it was all pointy and just not. So don't be afraid of, you won't have to iron in pleats if you don't want to. Take your time with the ironing. It's a process. And yeah, these ones sewed up a lot. These ones they sewed up easier. They lined up better, and I'm clearly having less problems. So iron first. That's the status quo, by the way. Iron first, get everything set the way that you want it. But yeah, don't be afraid of these little, don't be afraid of these little shelves that don't be afraid of sewing in some of these little shelf areas, because once you iron it down and get it sewed into your project and do all the things. But yeah, so 2 things. I'm going to back up and make sure that I make both points. So iron first, then set it with steam. Don't worry if you have some of these areas where it has a pretty significant fold over. I don't think there's a lot you can do about it, and it's not the end of the world. And just don't forget the next step is always to quilt it all down. So when you're at that step, you can sew that down, so it's going to look a lot nicer. So yeah, I got kind of vastly different results. This one's off center too. I just keep my steam on. I'm lazy. Well, I guess I'm not lazy. I guess I'm confident. I don't know what you want to call it, but steam's on here and it shouldn't be. Iron first, then steam. If you're really have a lot of things that you want to do with it before you set that stuff in place. Okay. So I've discovered that there are a couple of rules, and that is do not come in. See, these are fairly flat. These ironed out pretty flat. There's still a couple of little spots where there's like this one's got a really obvious one where, which is at that end, where the fabric is, this one's got it right obvious right here, where the fabric folds over. In order to make this flat, this has a little fold over. Instead of being nice, nice and tight and flat, this folds over a little bit. They all have done it, and the person that I was watching, one of the people that I was watching, because I watched a few tutorials before I decided to try this, mentioned in passing that that's normal. So don't be surprised that that's there. So that's fine, that's fine. This one's fine. Okay, so now we are going to trim these. I'm not sure what order I'm going to do all this stuff in, but now this is, I love this little gadget because I can set things down and just turn it. Flip it all the way around. I'm going for 9x9 squares. Every tutorial that I saw made it pretty clear that you're going to lose quite a bit of fabric. One of the nice things about this one, though, is that because the idea is that nothing has to meet at a corner. So if you end up a little off one way or the other, it's not going to affect the design, the pattern, or anything that you want to do about it. Now, where did that one turn out? I forget where that one ended up. I think I'm also going to start like linking some of these toys because people keep asking about this. Yeah, this is 8 3/4. So I'm not going to do that one with this project. I'll use it for another one though. So this, does this meet? It meets, but do I care? Oh, this one's already been trimmed. That was the one I trimmed earlier. I did notice that most of the edges are now a little wobbly, which is a little normal, especially a little the way I sew. So the good news, did I already say it? I bet you I already said it. The good news is that if I was sewing, I was all about my half square triangles, and when I was doing my half square triangles, basically when you're trimming them, you got to make sure I can trim this way over here and then things aren't going to line up. If you're doing a half square triangle, you have to make sure that the corners, that the corners match. There is no matching corners on this, so you don't have to agonize about it, which makes it, oh, what did I do? I did that over 9 inches anyway. There we go. So you don't have to agonize about it the same way that you would if you were doing a half square triangle. There's a certain amount of randomness in here, and it's supposed to be there, which means you win. Yay! There we go. A lot of times I will stand when I'm cutting because sometimes looking up and over these rulers can mess up with your perspective on where something is. Kind of like when you look at your gas tank and you think it's half full and it's actually half empty. No, I've still got a quarter tank left. No, that's just where you're seeing from your angle. You do not. Okay. Obviously, what you want to do is like these. I don't want to line it up with this here where it met up funny. So I'm just going to go over here. Oh, that's why, because I didn't do that. I did that. Okay. 9 inches. 9 inches. This is really key. This is really convenient because you can either line up with the grid lines that are there, or you can just put your ruler right on top. But the fact that you don't have to pick it up and put it back down again can be very, 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 very convenient. And if I end up not liking any of those, I can trim them down. I'm obviously going to have 2 sizes. Now this one has a weird thing at the end. Is it going to be 9 inches though? That one is, again, from my first attempt, not 9 inches. I'm going to cut those down to 8 inches because I can still make a smaller tote bag out of them at 8 inches. So I'll do that instead. Okay. I'm just wanting to get this ready for you guys. So why did we do all this? We did all this for this. Tradewinds. The whole purpose of this kind of quilting. No, that's not it. That's it. Purpose of this kind of quilting is to get that random design. I'll just put that one over there to get it over the way. Purpose of this kind of quilting is to get that random design that doesn't look quite so random, so you'll have strips. You can put strips going through your project. I can do an entire quilt like this, and I'll have these things, and it doesn't matter how anything meets at the corners. That's the whole punchline. That is the whole punchline behind this entire project, and I'll throw a couple of these back out just to fill in the blanks for you. And I think I might cut the whole thing. I think I might cut these down to 8 inches as well. I don't know which way I'm going to go with this because I also, yeah, so that goes like that, right? That goes like that. Yeah, so you get your strips. So then you can make all kinds of patterning, and you can use these like this. And make them like that. Do those throughout your pattern. So long-winded video, but definitely worth it. But yeah, so these two are kind of the same because I ended up with 2 in the same thing. These two, though, that one curves up, that one curves in. And in a bigger project, you're going to have way more of these, so you can mix and match, make sure that no 2 things are showing up too close together. Maybe you know what? I'm going to save these for a quilt. I am going to save these for a quilt because the reality is that I can, and I've been wanting to start a new quilt. I am going to go work on Lisa's quilt. My lovely, lovely wife, who is so long suffering and puts up with my crap, would like a quilt, another quilt. So I'm going to make her one. I don't know, and now I need to think. The reality is that I need to practice these. If I'm going to make a quilt out of these, I need to practice. So I either need to dig out way more scrap to have scrap, because I am still learning. Not all of these are going to escape. Not all of these are going to escape the scrap bin. That's a given. That is definitely a given. The good news for me is that I have plenty of scrap, so it's not a problem. Because I have other stuff that I can pull out and use for a project like this. Not every piece of fabric has to be put into something that I'm going to sell. So there's that. But I don't know whether I'm going to do her quilt first. I should. I told her I was going to. So, you know, there's that. But I got to get the practice. Maybe what I'll do, I'm going to start what I'm going to do is I'll work on these off and on as I have time until I have a big enough collection to make a quilt. That sounds reasonable. Now I have to decide, well, I'll decide later. If I end up with enough that I can cut to 9 inches, I'll do a quilt using 9-inch blocks. And if I end up with, if the learning curve is just a little too much learning, then I'll cut them down to 8 inches and do that. That is one thing, is that if you're flexible on projects, or flexible on sizing, or flexible on things, then you have a lot more options what you're going to do. This is also a good summer project, because people, you know, just because it's hot doesn't mean I don't want to sew. It's because it's hot I can't really sew. And that's a different thing. Sewing something, like, I'm not going to finish a quilt. There is no way. You could not pay me enough money to actually sit down with all of this fabric and the batting and the backing in my lap and work on a quilt today. There's no way you could talk me into doing that, but this is easy. Sew these pieces to these pieces. And then I don't even have to iron them right away. I don't. I ironed them for the video, but when you're doing stuff like this, you don't even have to iron it immediately. That is not a priority step until you're actually ready to use it. Just keep in mind that if you decide to save 400 pieces of fabric to iron it all later, store it neatly, store it as neatly as you can to minimize the amount of iron that you have to do, and keep in mind that irons get hot. But that's a whole separate piece of advice. Anyway, okay, I am going to go take a break, and then I am going to come back and get this pile that I've got here sewn up, get that trimmed. I'm probably going to just finger press and skip ironing until I'm ready to do something more important with it, because I always iron. Even if I've already ironed, sometimes I'll iron the same piece of fabric like 5 times, because I'll iron it, I'll put it away for a while, it gets a little wrinkly, I should iron it before I use it again. So I end up doing that. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to iron anymore. That'll keep the house a little cooler too. Anyway, that's now a me problem. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. Like I said, well, not was hoping. It's like always that thing. So now what I'm going to do too is like these two are sewed together, so I'll store that as one thing. I'll put these two together, so I have 2 separate piles. Make sure that once you've trimmed these, if you're going to trim them in bulk, if you're going to trim a lot at the same time, sort it out, put a pin through it, put a big clip in it, do whatever you got to do, but make sure that you keep your piles organized. Like I'm just going to set them over there so that you're not going to lose track of which one sews to which one, or you're really going to have a bad time. Okay, that's it. Now I have to go edit all of this because I did a whole lot of babbling, and I don't know if you guys want the 2-hour version of this, but anyway, I'm going to get going. You guys have a great day. I will see you soon, and depending on what the weather's doing, or maybe my next video is going to be showing you what I'm going to end up doing with this, if I decide to do a tote bag or something and not a, honestly, by this point, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I really don't. Maybe I'll do a baby blanket. I haven't done one of those. I've never done a baby blanket because I don't have grandkids or anything, but it would be a great giveaway. We'll see. Okay, you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me. Don't forget, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things so that you can catch the next one. And I'm trying to take over the world 1 subscription at a time, and I need your help for that. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.